Hey, Slick Talkers, thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. And I know that if you love this show, you'll also love my morning show called Good Morning Hospitality with my co hosts Michael Golden and Brandy Canali, as we spend 30 minutes every Monday morning to dive into the industry's top latest news and trending topics. So go check it out on wherever you find your podcasts at Good Morning Hospitality. And you can live stream with us on Monday mornings on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and of course, YouTube. Now, I hope you enjoy this episode.
I was very lucky to bump into hospitality. I originally came from the NGO sector, and I was looking for a job. And I found one at a hotel in Brussels, in Belgium. And it was an amazing experience. And I knew right away that's going to be my life. So after about a week, I knew this is what I will do.
Welcome to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast where we discuss all things hospitality, hotels, and business. You can find us online at slicktalkthepodcast.com and on every podcast listening platform.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast. And I'm your host, Will Slickers. And today I have my friend Christoph Hutter from Ottawa, Canada. I'm excited because we actually have been talking for quite a bit via LinkedIn and have been revenue geeks on the social media platform that, like I just said, is called LinkedIn. And so finally to have him on the show is such an honor. So Christoph, welcome to Slick Talk, my friend. How are you doing today?
Thank you very much, Will. It's my honor, and I'm very well. Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Of course, it's been a long time coming, but I'm excited. So let's just jump right in. I want to hear everything about Christoph. What's your story and what is your background, my friend?
As I said in the intro, I was very lucky to bump into hospitality. I was looking for a job, and the great thing that just happened to me was I had a couple of offers. I was living in Austria at the time, but I wanted to move to Belgium, and I had a couple of offers. One of them was at a hotel, and I really connected with the front office manager, a great guy, a great mentor, and I owe him big thanks for everything that I achieved. He really set me up. The funny thing is that the hotel was an Italian hotel in Brussels. Brussels is officially a bilingual city with French predominantly and Dutch as a second language. I didn't speak either of them, but I spoke Italian, and my mother tongue is German, so that helped. And of course, I spoke English as well. So these three languages landed me the job, and it was an amazing experience. I haven't changed my mind on that ever since.
Is there a particular reason that it keeps you so just excited, or is there a reason where you're like, oh yeah, I know you bumped into it, and this is such a cool, I think, entry point, being able to speak three languages, and so now you have more opportunity to connect with guests and your staff, and to do multiple things at once. So is that what kind of drives you a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the people that are so interesting. At first it was amazing to meet people from all over the world, all the guests that came and stayed with us. It was a really fancy hotel, and there were a lot of people, government officials, and business tycoons, and all sorts of people. We had really names. I'm not going to name anyone, but we had names that everybody knows, and so that was really cool for me as a young person, to see all these people, to interact with them, to talk with them, and that was just fantastic. And to see all the stories that happen in hotels. History is made in hotels. That was one of the slogans of the hotels where I worked. And it's true. If you think about all these heads of state coming together for meetings, well, those meetings oftentimes are held in hotels, and we at the front desk were right at the center of it. That was just awesome. And
How
since
old were you?
then, I was in my 20s. To be honest, I don't recall the exact age, but no, I was in my 20s. That was a long time ago, and I have since then. I'm now not interacting so much with the guest anymore, which is a shame, but it's the way life goes. But I really enjoy now to be at the back of the hotel to talk to people, hoteliers from all over the world, and that's kind of the journey that I made, starting in operations, starting at the front desk, and then progressing through the years, moving at the back of the house, and I landed in revenue management, which is absolutely my passion.
Well, I was going to say,
And
when did you make that transition? When did you start crossing over from front of, excuse me, sorry, front of house into the back of house?
well, it always was somewhere present, from the very early stages on. We were one of the hotels that at the time already had a revenue manager, and he was absent for an extended leave. And in that time, because I understood technology a little bit better than maybe others, and was interested, and worked a little bit more structured maybe than some of my other colleagues, um, I took over the operational side. So the loading of the rates, and managing inventory and things like that, which at the time there was no channel manager. That was in Europe, so we probably had, I don't know, 20 different extranets to manage, and those were not the fancy extranets that we know today. Those were terrible systems that were super complex to maneuver, and really, it has changed so much over the years. So that was my first touch point, and that kind of awoke my interest, and I was able to join my GM a little bit later, at a conference, with all the group's general managers, to attend basically a 2-day conference on revenue management, which was led by the founder of Ray Tiger, Andrew Morrissey, and that was just an eye opener that really wowed me when I learned about yielding rates, when I learned about upselling, and all these things that are still so important today. And yeah, that was what sparked my interest. And then in 2009, I took on my first role as property revenue manager.
Well, and you had to figure out a lot of like your own systems. It sounded like you came into a prehistoric like dinosaur operation level of revenue management, and now you've like incorporated your own systems and I guess you could say like technology. What was the initial start of that? How did you figure that out? Like what in your head was like, I'm gonna start changing how we're doing revenue management?
Well, when I worked for a Scandinavian group in Brussels as revenue manager, I was very junior, my first role, and I was very lucky to have a great mentor at the time, a very experienced revenue management professional. Um, and what we decided for the group was, about half a year in, that we're going to build a cluster for all the hotels. And that was again a great opportunity for me to learn, because now I was working every day, sitting in the same office with people who were more experienced than me, so I could just learn every day, and that was fantastic, amazing. um, and a little fast forward, back in 2012, my wife and I decided to move to Canada, where she's from, and I started working as a property revenue manager again, for one of the hotels here in Ottawa, fantastic property. And that was kind of a shock awakening, because I was used to all this fancy technology that I had at my group in Brussels, revenue management system, good PMS, and some other really cool tools. And then I came here, and the PMS was archaic. It wasn't even a PMS that was intended for hotels. It was more intended for cruise ships initially.
Which doesn't make
And
anything easy for anybody.
No, it was not intended for a hotel of the size with 300 plus rooms. And on a cruise ship, you're not having daily check-ins and check-outs and all this stuff, obviously. And the way how your rates are managed and all that is very different from hotels. So it didn't help us in our productivity, not just on my end. Just to give you some idea, to save a rate code. So just changing a rate and saving the rate code, loading a contract rate, for example, corporate rate or something. It took 45 minutes for that rate to be saved, while the entire hotel operations was slowed down for everyone. So if I loaded rates, it had to be coordinated with every other department. It couldn't be during the check-in or check-out rush and things like that. And that was insane. At a hotel of that size where you have potentially hundreds of different contracts that need to be loaded. So
Not even
was
that,
really
just like yield management in general, that you and I both understand what yield management is and what it does, and like that's a lot of time to wait for something like that.
absolutely, yeah. And the biggest or one of the big time consumers was that I had to prepare a lot of reports every day for other departments, for myself. And it took, on average, I guess, at least half an hour a day to put all these reports together. It was not rocket science. It was nothing complicated. It was mostly copy pasting of things. And I realized, all the information is in the computer. Why should I then type it in again or copy paste it? That doesn't make any sense. If it's in the computer, it can be automated. So how do I do that? I don't know. Well, let's find out. And that's when I had this really big game-changing moment for me when I realized, hey, I can learn and teach myself programming. I can automate the whole process. And instead of sitting down half an hour every day, I click a button, takes me 3 seconds. My reports are done, emailed out to everyone. I analyze the reports. I don't create them. And that gave me a huge competitive advantage over other hotels when I could just dive into it.
Well, that's what a that's what a revenue manager should do, and not just you're not a receptionist who should be dialing in numbers and doing all the stuff. You are an analyst. You're a strategic analyst that is supposed to implement strategies in order to best execute profitability for the hotel. So to me, that makes sense.
Absolutely, and it really it worked very well. I was able to ask a lot of questions and really understand much better why things were the way they were, and how to optimize them. And at some point, we were able to transition away from that archaic PMS. We went with a much more potent PMS that again was a huge eye opener for me when I realized the cross department increases in productivity. That was massive. So we had, for example, an overflow call center where phone rings, nobody's able to pick up because everybody's already busy. The call was forwarded to an overflow call center, third-party call center. And after implementing that PMS, that overflow call center volume dropped by 90% within a week. So it's not that we didn't change anything in strategy or in the ways how we operated or anything. All that we changed was the technology we worked with. That was just faster and better. And so that really showed and proved how important it is for hotels to make sure that the technology they use is up to date. The implications were massive. Not only did we have ROI, which we had calculated an ROI of this over a 3-year period, we had it after 5 months. And it was a big investment, of course. Buying a PMS and nowadays that's all legacy technology, but still that was a huge investment. A lot of commitment from ownership, a lot of commitment on our side, and after 5 months we had ROI, because we were able to optimize the things the way we had done them. Big learning experience for myself and for the company.
Yeah, because it comes down to your operational costs, and I hate saying it, but time is money, and if you're able to save a lot of time and headache, the more you're able to save, the more you're able to do in implementing your business and getting it more improved. Especially as a team, I think that's really important. I'm pretty sure you've understood that from your time at the front desk, and just understanding that it's not just a revenue managers or revenue strategist or revenue analyst who's making the money. It's everybody involved, whether their housekeeping metrics, their maintenance metrics, or the front desk being able to understand why it's not good to go below a certain rate, or how to do upsells and get everything, like create packages, and to be really thinking more than just room revenue, or food and beverage revenue, or whatever department they're in. I think that's pretty huge.
Yeah, it's extremely important that everybody, first of all, in the organization understands not just what revenue management is, but what it actually means for them. And there's a huge disconnect, because most people that I talk with still today, that are not linked to one of the departments that are connected with revenue management, but thinking about housekeeping, for example, kitchen, they have no idea what revenue management is. And one example was at one hotel where I worked. We had a new controller coming in, and one of my colleagues from one of the non-room departments asked me, "Hey, how's your new boss?" "What new boss? The GM didn't change." I reported to the GM. "Well, the new controller, how is he?" "He's not my boss. I have nothing to do with that." So the level of lack of knowledge goes down to that level, where the people really, they don't know what revenue management is, and that's somewhat a mission of mine to change that, to educate what is revenue management, why do we need it, and how can anybody in the hotel participate on some level in improving the revenue and ultimately the profitability for the hotel.
No, I totally agree, and I love that, and I think it leads perfectly into like the next question I kind of had for you. It's a two-parter question, really, but out of your whole journey, did you like running the bigger hotels with 1,000+ rooms, or the smaller hotels, and why? But then also I guess like part two, part three would be, where does the term non-traditional revenue manager come from, and what does it mean? Because what you're explaining and kind of goes into your whole business and brand. So I'd love to get your thoughts and hear what that means.
Absolutely. I don't know if I would say I like the smaller hotels or the bigger hotels. I realized at some point that I enjoy working with independent hotels, be it the truly independent family-owned business or family-run and operated business, or an independently run hotel, or even a smaller group. That's where my expertise and experience was in mostly. I had some touch point with brands, but what I realize and what I enjoy very much is I like to really see where's the potential of the hotel, that specific property in that specific market, because every hotel is different. Every market is different. There is no one-stop solution that works for everyone. For some hotels, this will be the solution. For other hotels, that will work better. And especially when it comes to technology, be it the PMS or booking engine or revenue management systems, all these different pieces of the hotel tech stack. Some will work better in one hotel than in another, and it comes down to the hotel. It comes down to the people that are involved in the organization. What is the optimal choice? And that's why I would say I enjoy working more with independent hotels. non-branded hotels, because there we have the flexibility to select the tech stack that works best, to implement the strategy that works best, to do the marketing that works best, really targeted and customized for that individual hotel.
Yeah, and you're able to tell the story a little bit better, I think. When like nothing against branded hotels, because that's where I started was with the Autograph collection under Marriott. So like I get the brand and like you can really execute well on that. But my favorite times were working with independent companies or properties or like you said, mom and pop type ownership. One of my favorite ones actually was on the Oregon coast. They had a brewery. It was called Public Coast, and the reason why is because the whole Oregon coast, 362 miles, is public and open to everybody. And I just thought that was a cool story that you could tell to the guests and to the experience. And when you're trying to create upsells, whether it's like a beer and wine package or whatever, you're able to tell something really cool and explain, the reason why all our guests are able to go to the beach and have bonfires and create memories and moments with their family and have s'mores and get chocolate and marshmallows all over their face and whatnot. It was just a cool reason to explain the story. And I think when it comes to independent properties like that, it's more fun to get creative and tell that story and get really excited.
Absolutely, absolutely. The one of the things I enjoy is talking about the content and the story that we can tell for a hotel, for the people that are working there, and the guests that come there. With branded properties, oftentimes you don't have that possibility because you don't even have a real website. You have a page on the brand website, and you cannot even really impact that page that much. While at the independent, well, you make it however you need it to be, and that's just fantastic. And that's a way how you're able to stand out from the crowd, which is super important, which is going to be more important than ever in the months to come. And that's kind of to answer the second part of your question a little bit, where that term non-traditional revenue manager came from. It was coined by a former GM of mine who described me that way in an interview. So I learned about it when I read the article. And I looked at that and said, non-traditional revenue manager. Well, yeah, that kind of describes me. I'm trying to do things differently from the others. I try to stand out so that my hotel stands out from the crowd, so that it can be found, that people can relate to it, guests can relate to it, and ultimately book the property, helping us to improve our revenue. So I was all about that with the different means that we have, be it on the strategy side, be it on the technology side. I think that we need to be very creative in how we run the business and what we need to do. And there's a lot of opportunity out there, and we just have to take it.
See, that's what made me want to connect with you even more on LinkedIn when we actually initially connected, because the non-traditional revenue manager, and then like the more I dove into it and what that meant and like how that looked, I was like, dang, this is what I was doing. This is what I was trying to push with my GMs and owners that were saying, well, this is how we've done it the last 20 years. So we're gonna keep doing it this way. There's nothing you can do to change it. I'm like, but there's so many things that go into it. And like, granted, yes, I was very young and passionate, but I still understood the concept of getting outside of the box and getting creative and having fun and implementing strategies with the team in order to execute what we were talking about in our revenue management meetings.
Yes, absolutely. If I think about a simple strategy and the way how oftentimes it is done still today is, and that's one thing that we have seen, especially now with the pandemic, one hotel drops the price, and then the next one follows, and then the next one follows. Or the other way around, unfortunately, we have not seen that really that much in the last little while, is if somebody increases the price, then others may follow as well. That's to some level basic yield management. It's not revenue management. It goes much beyond that. But just thinking about, how do most hotels implement or come up with their strategy, they shop the rates, they look at the length of stay for one night, and they see where the others are at, and then they decide what price they want to sell it. While the average length of stay in many destinations is far above one, maybe it's in the realm of 2 nights. I had one property that, because of the strategy that we ran, with a decent ADR, but our length of stay was almost 3 nights in a market that knew an 1.8 average length of stay overall. And it was not a long-term property or anything. It was just a normal city kind of hotel. It just goes to show how much the strategy matters. When you're not doing the same thing that everybody else does. Is everybody else looks at the length of stay 1, look at the length of stay 2 or 3 or 4, and figure out how to be competitive there if you're looking at price. But I think we need to overall move away a little bit from that whole price discussion, especially right now when prices in many destinations are at the bottom anyways already. Where dropping further is no option. We need to come up with ways how can we add value, and I think that's where the discussion is going to shift over the next next little while, let's say.
Well, I think it's interesting that you say that, because you and I were both in a clubhouse room with Stuart Butler and the Hotel Fuel Marketing Podcast people, and they're talking about there's no more guest loyalty. Like, guest loyalty is out the door because a lot of people haven't traveled in the last 12 months. They're no longer saying, well, that was our traditional, hotel to go to every year. Now it's, oh, well, I'm working remote. I'm going to go next month to this place and stay there for a week and come home, and go to this place next month and stay here and come home, or whatever it may be. There's a certain situation. And I think what you said is super important, because we no longer have that ability to say, well, let's just do an e-blast and we'll get, all our repeat guests back or whatever. Like, you have to really fight for that new customer acquisition cost that we don't know what it's going to be yet. Like, we don't know what our customer acquisition cost is going to be now, in my opinion, at least. I want to know more about like what your thoughts are with that whole segment, but also going back to what you were saying and how, taking that length of stay and getting that length of stay higher than your competition inside the city or destination you were in. What made you guys get that higher length of stay compared to your competitors?
We had the better rate strategy for multiple length of stays. Like I said, everybody is always looking at the rate shop report, and that specific example was the first time that I saw that, and I've seen it over and over again. That was still in the days where your rate shop was an email that you received once a day. In our case, because we were lucky, once a week in the case of many others. So that email showed you the length of stay 1 rate. Of course, nowadays there are a lot of fantastic tools available at very low cost that allow you to see rates for multiple length of stay scenarios. And it's essential that people look at that and see, well, they may be selling at $150 for 1 night, but maybe for 2 nights they're on average they're selling at, I don't know, $100. And there's huge opportunity in that. Looking at the different scenarios, you need to look at length of stay patterns just as much as arrival patterns and all that, and come up with the ideal segmentation mix for all these different factors to make sure that you're protecting your shoulder nights, to make sure that you're not selling out too soon on the days where you can sell out. Of course, those are not things that we will maybe see in the immediate future, but at some point we will again. We need to be ready for that. So we need to get ready for that now. We need to make sure that we have the strategy in place, that we have the technology in place, that we have the people in place to manage the demand when it comes back. And will come back. It will come back slowly at first. But it will come back at some point. Very much will depend on the market, the country, feeder markets, and so on, and ultimately also the property. But what is more important than ever, and I said that before, is now we need to stand out from the crowd, because when demand returns very slowly, the only opportunity we have to grow is to gain market share. there is only so many people that are going to come to that destination. We need to maximize how many we can get from those travelers at our property. And so being positioned in a way that lets you stand out from the crowd on the one hand, but also making sure that your revenue strategy is correct. That is absolutely essential right now.
Well, do you think we're going to have seasonality like we used to?
There's always going to be seasonality, but it maybe looks differently than what we experienced in the past. It very much will depend on the market. In the resort and beach destinations, you will have a seasonality geared more towards that kind of traveler. In the ski resorts, you will have, of course, more winter heavy demand, and the cities will very much depend on what market it is, what city it is, how that is going to play out. I think that there will be a shift in demand, or that there is potential for shift in demand, that we when Easter in one destination was weak, maybe it will be strong moving forward. So this historical know-how that we accumulated, and that revenue management oftentimes is based on the historical data, well, that's a little bit going out of the window. So we need to make sure that we keep a very open mind to what could happen in the future, very close eye, and all possible kind of trends scenarios, starting from events that can happen in the year to come, in the 2 years to come, down to, well, how was our pickup in the last couple of weeks? So we have to come up with entire new ways to define our strategy. Maybe a little bit less looking at the competition, more looking at our own performance and things like that. Yeah. It's my thoughts.
That's good stuff. That's really good stuff. And my question, going back in, because you're talking about the travel demand climbs, and yes, it'll be slow, but it will happen, and we need to be ready, and we need to prepare and have the tech and have the people and the proper strategy in place. What can we do today to better, build profitability on top of handling a pandemic and everything else that we're going through right now as a hotel industry?
I think we need to be, first of all, very mindful that however the future is going to play out, it will be different. Stuart Butler, whom you mentioned, I don't know if it was in the clubhouse or on the podcast, but he said, yeah, we're not going to a new normal, we're going to the new abnormal. And that really resonated with me, because it's absolutely true. It won't be ever again the way how it was. Just thinking about corporate demand and congresses, events, meetings, that will change. And even if it comes back at some point, it will be different. Like you said, there will be a lot of companies, and we see that everywhere, that companies cut down their offices. I talked with one business owner the other day, and they're closing their office, and they're not coming back to it. They shut it down. Remote work forever.
Yeah.
And it's nothing new, really. And I talked with one of my LinkedIn contacts. It was in 2019, late 2019, and we were working on a project together. And it was all in writing, all the time. We just coordinated everything in writing. And then one day we wanted to set up a call. That was the time when I realized he was sitting in Thailand. So I didn't even know where he was based, right?
Yeah.
So it's of course nothing new, and I have done remote work for many years now. I have worked in my home office for many years, but now everybody's doing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that will for a lot of people, that will not change. So the whole corporate travel scenario is going to change. You can't just pop in a city and meet somebody, because they're not even working there anymore. So it's wrapping our hand around that is going to be a huge challenge, and we just need to be ready. So we need to shift our mindset. But that lack in corporate demand, which sustains a lot of the city hotels, the lack of group demand, which will take a long time to ramp up again. It means that we need to transition away from the mentality that we're turning away business as revenue managers to a mentality and mindset where we need to go and find business and find opportunities. And we can maximize the trends and opportunities that we have already, but we need to do more because it's not enough. So we need to really go out and become hunters and not gatherers. So I think that shift of mindset, that is important. And this change of ways how we do things, that is important. And we need to, on the other hand, make sure that we stand out from the crowd. Sorry. That hotels, guests, potential guests can find us, that we provide them with the content that that allows them to really understand the destination, understand the product, and get them excited for it. So marketing, the way how hotels market, in the past it was often, hey, 20% off, 30% off, 40% off, 50% off. Yeah, that's not marketing. That's maybe advertisement, and it's not working. We need to add value. We need to provide content that is fun. It's exciting, and we're hotels. We're hoteliers. It's very exciting to travel, and we need to communicate that to our prospects and future guests. And then we need to make sure that we have the right technology in place to help us achieve that. Be that starting on the website, things like live chat to allow them to quickly interact with the hotel, not to call the phone, where especially now I only have one operator who is able to pick up the phone. Yeah, what if 3 people call at the same time? Well, 2 of them are going to go somewhere else. A live chat will help to manage that, even with less people. Chatbots are even more helpful there. We need to make sure that we have good booking technology in place. A good booking engine is really important, because otherwise the people will come because we do great marketing. So they will come to the website and then they go to the OTA and book there. But if they go to the OTA, not only do we have to pay OTA commission, but then they have all the other options there. Maybe they won't even come. While had we done a better job on our website to convert them, they would never have gone to the OTA and booked there and not gone to the hotel across the street. So that's, again, one of the things we need to stand out. We need to make sure that we gain market share. So having the right technology in place to do that, to capture guest information, to personalize our offers to the guest, personalize the content that the guest sees when they come to our website. That's all. If we go on Amazon, it's exactly how it needs to be. A lot of the things that we observe on Amazon, that's exactly how we need to approach it as well. You always get served the products that you're very likely to buy. Well, we need to offer the content, the products to our visitors, to our website visitors, that they're more likely to buy. We really need to get our conversion figured out. That is absolutely key. And then we need, of course, the right strategy itself. How do we sell, and what do we sell, and where do we sell? There are a lot of fantastic business intelligence tools out there that allow us to find that information and to aggregate that and to read it, to understand it, to draw our conclusions. So it's a lot of work. It's going to be very difficult, but it's very doable. And I always say it's actually a great thing that it's difficult, because when things are difficult, it means that most people won't do it, which makes it easier for us.
Because you will do it. Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that too. And it's like there's rooms to fill and memories to make is what my kind of like go-to saying would be, is like there's rooms to fill and memories to make. So yes, it's important to think about the revenue you're making and the strategies you're implementing and the marketing you're doing and all these things and where you're advertising and how you're advertising and, you know, at what price. But understanding that the little moments that we can execute on daily, we have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of them in front of our faces. Granted, maybe not exactly in person, but we have the opportunity via, you know, live chats and all these other things that you've been talking about to really make something unique and special, not just automated in a good way. There's automation to help and speed tasks up that basically are a consistent task, but to go out of your way to do simple things such as create a memory or a special moment for people. That's where we, again, like you said, you know, we have to do something different. And that's one thing I think if hotels focus on the, you know, the 5 blocks outside of their door, the community themselves, and really embrace the community and make this a place that people can staycation at, whether they live 5 minutes down the road or 5 states away. Like this is something that we want people to understand, that this is a community center. This is a place for people to build memories and moments, but then also that, you know, we're not just selling a Facebook post for 20% off a room rate. We're selling something pretty incredible. So yeah, I like what you said. Everything just kind of like resonated really deeply. I have one last question for you, my friend, and it's kind of like a shameless plug opportunity. Where can people find out more? Because I love the broad mindedness that you have with how you think about revenue management and experiences and everything in hotels and hospitality is just really incredible. So I want to give you the opportunity for people to go find you and to even work with you or connect with you.
Yeah, you can just Google me and you'll come to my website, christophhutter.com, and find all my contact information there for anybody who wants to reach out directly. Of course, LinkedIn is a great place to find me, to follow me there, connect with me there. I'm always happy to chat about our industry, chat about revenue management, the struggles that we have today, the technology that is out there. I'm always happy to help where I can. I love this industry. I love the people of the industry, and yeah, it's a tough time that we are all going through right now, and we all have to look forward, see the light at the end of the tunnel. We can see it; it's there. We cannot yet grasp it 100%, maybe, but it's there, and times will be better. But now is the time to do something about it. So if anyone listening has any questions on what they should do today, then just connect with me and let's have a conversation.
Do you see yourself being on Clubhouse a lot more in the near future, or is that something that you're still kind of playing with right now? Just a fun random question.
Well, it's something that I'm playing with a little bit right now, just to find out what is there. There's some interesting networking opportunities that I had already. It's a different audience. I'm very active on LinkedIn, and it's not the same audience that I find on LinkedIn. It's a little bit different people. Hospitality on Clubhouse is still a little bit underserved. I think there's not a lot of there are not a lot of rooms out there. I see it's growing a little bit, so there's more and more. But yeah, it's still in its infancy, so it's very exciting.
Let's change that then. Let's do a couple of rooms together.
Sure, let's do it.
Awesome. Well, all my Slick Talk listeners, I will tag everything in the show notes here for you to find Christoph, his LinkedIn, his website, all that good stuff. And if you're ever on Clubhouse, you can probably find us in there. We'll try to do a live like Clubhouse stream or something. It'd be really fun. Christoph is again, it's been super awesome to finally connect with you. It's been a long time coming. COVID-19 and the pandemic itself just definitely, I think, postpone this more and more. I think we were actually supposed to meet in April, and
Yes.
and that's when I got called up for the National Guard, and it was just kind of a whole mess. But dude, thank you so much for being on the show. And like I said, all my listeners, we're going to tag everything in the show notes, and you've been listening to Slick Talk.
Thank you so much for listening. We love your support and want to provide the best we can to all our listeners. So please find us online, social media, and on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast.
What's up, everybody? If you've gotten this far into the episode of Slick Talk, the Hospitality Podcast, then you are amazing, and thank you so much for tuning in. We want to send you two places really quickly. If you can, check out the show notes and click the hospitality.fm link. Check out all of our other shows on the podcast network. And don't forget, if you have someone that you want to hear on the podcast, then fill out the guest fill out form so that way we can get them on the show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy another episode of Slick Talk, the Hospitality Podcast.